Okay, so today is just a little bit about eyes. And if we can zoom in, if you compare sort of this eye over here that looks normal to this eye over here, you'll see there's a little bit of extra swelling. This actually started yesterday for this horse and I treated it, so the swelling is down. But whenever you have a weepy eye, if it looks red and irritated, and if you compare this eye to that eye, because it's not big, obvious swelling unless it's pretty bad, but you can see there's still a little bit of swelling on this eye compared to that eye. It can be from flies, or it could be a scratch, it could be something more serious. So what we're gonna look at is just quick first aid if you don't know what's wrong with the eye. If it's really weeping, or if you put your hand over this eye to kind of feel what the normal temperature is for the eye, and then you compare it to this eye. If this eye is significantly warmer to the touch, then you have a pretty high level of irritation, and you might want to call the vet. Eyes are not something to mess with. A swollen, watery, weepy eye is a vet call, because if you don't, they can have really serious conditions that progress very quickly, and horses can lose their eye. So I don't mess with eyes, especially during warm, humid months, like the summer up north or Florida most of the year. They can get fungal infections, they can have scratches, they can have ulcers, they can have all kinds of things. So the first thing I'm gonna do is put my hand over this eye and feel the temperature of the good eye, because both of them feel kind of warm. This eye is not significantly hotter than that eye. So the treatment I did last night is working. Also, the swelling on this eye is down by half of what it was yesterday. So you can see if you look closely, there's still a little bit of swelling, and there's a little bit of like tear marks. So the eye's been watering a little bit. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I have a clean barn towel in some clean water. I know it's stained, but it is clean. And I'm just going to wipe around the eye. So I want to clear up, I want to rub, because the tears running down the extra runny eye can scald the face. So I want to wipe off any crusties, and I kind of want to wipe towards the corners of the eye, very gently. And they usually love it. If they have a hot, swollen eye, the first thing you can do is use very cold water, and when you wipe the eye, you can just put the towel over it like that and help take down some of the swelling, which is always a good idea. Right? Then, because I found his swollen eye yesterday afternoon, and it could have been fly related, we've been getting cold fronts and then it gets hot again. Last night, I kept his fly mask on overnight. So a regular fly mask will protect the eye while it's swollen and drippy and healing, because the swelling and the dripping of the eye will just attract more flies and make it worse. So I'll put the fly mask on them 24/7 if they have a weepy, swollen eye. If the swelling wasn't down by half today, after I treated it last night, I would be calling the vet. If it was more weepy, more swollen, more red and irritated, that would be a vet call. So then how to treat the eye safely, because some of the ophthalmic ointments that come from the vet will have steroids in them. This is an ophthalmic ointment that comes from the vet that's basically just neomycin and polymycin. So it is kind of the equivalent of Neosporin. So if you don't have the ophthalmic ointment from the vet without steroids, if you have the one with steroids, do not put it in the eye until you know what's going on with the eye. Because if they have a scratch or a certain condition, the ophthalmic ointment with steroids can actually do more harm. So you want the one without steroids, or if you don't have one from your vet in your first aid kit, you can use regular Neosporin. So if you're using regular Neosporin, you can put a little bit on your clean finger, right? And then when I go to put it in the eye, I like to put their head over my shoulder like this. Oh, he's being very good. He's giving me his eye. So I'm going to lift the upper lid and I'm going to just wipe it into the corner of the eye. And even if I have a little bit on the outside like that, sometimes it can help on the outside. So I just kind of gently rub it in. And I don't use the tube itself unless you're pretty handy with it, because you don't want to poke them in the eye with the tube if they suddenly move their head or do something like that. So that's a little bit goopy because this Neosporin is not clear, it's white, so you can really see it. And as he's blinking, I'm just going to give him a minute, it's working into the eye. So that will help if he has any kind of little infection from the flies. You're just going to put in that Neosporin and let it, and you can even gently kind of rub to help it work into the inside of the eye itself. And he's kind of squinty. There we go. So the ophthalmic ointment that comes from the vet is a little easier to use. I'm going to put a tiny bit of that in there too. And if the horse is really good, like he is, with doing an eye treatment, I can run my hand through the halter like this, just to kind of control where his head goes. I can kind of widen the lenses and just put a little squirt right in there. And when I open his eye, you can kind of see it's a little bit red in there on the lid. So he's so good. Not all horses are this good for their eye treatments. But it does feel better. So just getting a little bit of ointment in there is how I treat the eye. If it's really hot, really swollen, really watering, I wouldn't do anything. I would just call the vet and have the vet do what they need to do. Eye issues are serious. If I think it's just from flies, which is what I suspected yesterday, then I can treat it with the Neosporin or the ophthalmic ointment, clean it up, reduce the swelling a little bit with a cold compress, and then I would put a fly mask on him 24/7 until that eye started to look normal again and wasn't tearing, wasn't swollen at all, and no redness inside the lid.